What better way to start off the first event of the new year than with a free servant? Happy 2023 everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, bringing you a servant spotlight for the quickest Tengu in all the land, Kiichi Hogen. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers to how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. So if you are a refined and sophisticated appreciator of Tengu girls, then make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring my bell so you can catch all of these spotlight videos as they go up, and you can help out the channel. And now, on to Kiichi's stats. Kiichi has a max HP of 11,168 and a max attack of 9,434, which becomes 8,490 due to her assassin class modifier. Both her attack and HP are slightly above average for her class, but that isn't saying much for an assassin, since compared to the rest of the 4-star servants, as expected, her attack is quite low and her HP is middling. When it comes to her deck, she has 3 hits on her quick card, 4 hits on her arts, 3 hits on her buster, and 4 hits on her extra card. And thankfully both her NP gain and star generating are good, mostly due to her high hit counts. As with most assassins, her stats are subpar for her rarity, but they are solid for an offensively focused assassin. Taking a look at her skills, Kiichi's first skill is Eternally Peerless Blade rank A+. This skill increases her own quick card effectiveness for 3 turns, between 20 and 30% depending on level, and it also grants her 2 hits of evasion. Her second skill is on Myodo rank A. This skill charges an ally's NP gauge between 10 and 20%, and it increases their star absorption rate for 1 turn between 100 and 200%, both depending on level. And finally, her last skill is 6 Secret Arts of War rank EX. This skill is a charisma that increases the party's attack and NP gain for 3 turns, both between 10 and 20%, and both depending on level. For her passives, Kiichi has Presence Concealment rank C, which increases her star gen by 6%, Magic Resistance EX, which increases her debuff resistance by 25%, and Territory Creation rank B+, which increases her arts card effectiveness by 9%. Moving on to her deck and Noble Phantasm, Kiichi has a Buster Quick deck with Quick, Arts, Buster, and a Quick Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Rikuto Sanryaku Mao Sonda Usen, which is an AoE quick attack that deals damage to all enemies with an attack modifier between 600 and 1000% depending on level. It also removes all of their defensive buffs and increases her own quick card effectiveness for a turn between 10 and 30% depending on overcharge. Kiichi is a welfare servant, so level ascending her is very easy. She just requires 4 Tengu masks, which can be gained by completing her event. Her skill ascension mats are also easily obtainable as well. She'll need 15 Yggdrasil Seeds, 12 Forbidden Pages, 20 Ancient Bells, and 8 Divine Wines per skill. Yggdrasil Seeds are farmable at Fallen Babylon in Babylonia, where they have a 57% drop rate. Forbidden Pages have a 34% drop rate at Shinjuku Tuchome in Shinjuku. Ancient Bells drop at the Bomb Cave in Lost Belt 3, where they have a 45% drop rate, and Divine Wine are best farmed in Agartha at the Palace of the Dragon King, where they have a 14% drop rate. I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but I do find it interesting that our first Tengu servant just so happens to be a quick servant, and with that A+ ranked agility, her speed may very well give a certain other Tengu a run for her money. Potential references aside though, Kiichi is definitely a servant who makes full use of her quick deck, as we'll soon find out. Stat-wise, she doesn't have much going for her on the surface with mediocre attack and HP, but she does make up for it somewhat with her strong star generating and decent NP gain, especially on her Noble Phantasm. Kiichi also has a surprisingly good set of passives with buffs to her star generating, NP gain, and a huge resistance to debuffs, which can potentially come into play for tougher content. But don't let that fool you, because Kiichi is a farmer through and through. In fact, she even comes with her own juicy NP battery in on Myodo. This skill increases an ally's NP gauge by 20% and increases their star weight by 200% for a turn. Now this skill is technically targetable, which means it's one of the few skills in the game that can increase an ally's star absorb rate, but you're almost always going to want to use this on Kiichi herself. Not only does this star absorb buff help her make use of the stars that she generates, but that 20% charge is vital for ensuring that she can loop her NP in Scotty teams. And that isn't her only battery skill either. Kiichi also has 6 secret arts of war, a charisma that also buffs NP gain for the party. Unsurprisingly, this is very similar to Ushi's skill for lore reasons, and it is a strong charisma variant which can help fuel NP looping not just for herself, but for the party as a whole. The attack buff itself is also nice, especially when combined with her first skill, Eternally Peerless Blade. This one is a 30% buff to quick for herself and a 2-hit evasion. And the best thing about this skill is that the quick buff stacks multiplicatively with the charisma, so it gives Kiichi a good bump in damage for a full 3 turns, which is ideal for farming. Defensively, the multi-hit evasion is one of the best forms of evade in the game, so it does come in handy in a pinch, not that you'll be using Kiichi much defensively anyway. For skill priority, as is the case with all NP loopers, go for her NP charge first, followed by her charisma for that NP gain, and then her quick buff last. And pick up mana loading on her pen skills just to make farming easier and more consistent. Kiichi's Noble Phantasm is an AoE quick attack that dispels all defensive buffs from enemies, and it buffs her quick card effectiveness. A solid NP, especially for a welfare servant. Not only does Kiichi's Noble Phantasm deliver another quick buff for extra damage, but it has amazing utility for removing stuff like evasion or invincibility from enemies, which can make her situationally useful in some boss fights if you're lacking a buff remover, especially since she can NP multiple times in most fights. But as I said before, Kiichi's bread and butter is as a farmer. All of her skills are designed to maximize her usefulness in Scotty teams. Her NP has a very high number of hits, 7 to be exact, so she benefits a lot from NP refund. Each of Kiichi's skills also helps her build NP charge in some form or another to contribute to her consistency as well. Her NP gain up and quick buff have strong synergy with her Noble Phantasm to gain even more NP charge back, and all of her damage buffs last for 3 turns, which is just enough time to clear a 3-wave node, without any kind of drop off in damage. Aside from her Scotty shenanigans, Kiichi can also make for a decent general DPS assassin if you're new to the game and you don't have a harder hitting assassin. But that's about it. Kiichi's usefulness is hyper fixated on her capabilities as a farmer on quick teams. And while she does do that job decently well, that style of farming is notoriously inconsistent and it won't work well in later content. Using Kiichi as a Scotty farmer also requires a very specific team comp and scenario, which limits her flexibility. Not to mention that, generally speaking, players who have been playing long enough to build a Scotty team likely already have a much better quick farmer to go along with it. And as a general DPS, she gets outclassed by many other assassins who can just output more damage or have better utility. As far as team comps go, of course, Kiichi thrives in Scotty teams where her NP looping can be fueled by Scotty's obscene quick buffs and NP charge. And outside of Scotty teams, Ushi and Wu can make for good general supports for Kiichi, since they provide her strong steroids and a small amount of NP battery, and if you're fortunate enough to have Osakabe Hime, you can even turn Kiichi into somewhat of a crit DPS. Kiichi's Bond CE is Kiichi's Takageta, which increases the party's NP gain and quick card effectiveness by 10%. It is very thematic, but not worth using. Kiichi primarily works best with CEs that can bolster her starting NP gauge and give her additional quick card effectiveness, like Traces of Christmas, Kaleidoscope, and Cherry Icicle. In the future, Fist of Hail can also be a decent CE if you want to go for the Crit Burb build, since it does give starting crit stars that Kiichi can absorb with her second skill. On that note, any crit buffing command code that also increases star absorb, like Majin-san, can be good on Kiichi, especially if used on her quick card. Overall, Kiichi is a strong farming servant for quick teams. She can loop her Noble Phantasm fairly consistently in Scotty teams thanks to her NP charge and high hit counts. She has good damage steroids for keeping up damage across multiple waves, and her utility can make her a decent budget choice for boss fights with enemies that stack defensive buffs. But ultimately, she is just too niche and inflexible to be useful in most team comps outside of Scotty farming, and the role that she does fill is one that isn't really in demand or accessible to newer players. So all in all, Kiichi gets a B- from me. I don't think that she's so bad she's unusable, but Kiichi's biggest problem is really one of figuring out who she's really for. Scotty farming isn't really that popular anymore, and for those players that do favor quick looping, there are just far better options out there, and for newer players who need an assassin DPS, she may be useful for a while, but she'll quickly be replaced. And those are my thoughts on Kiichi. If you are very new to the game or you're seriously lacking an assassin servant, then Kiichi will be a valuable pickup for you. Just don't expect her to carry carry you through the entire game. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over on our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. Soberoni out. Later.